them up. It's time for 1010XL's Open Gym. Leading the break, here's RJ Saunders.
And it is the basketball show for the basketball fan. Welcome back to a trade deadline review edition of Open Gym. RJ Saunders here with you, Casey Dobson in the box, making it all happen. And you, the city of Jacksonville, here to talk a little round ball with us on a Sunday. And we certainly thank you for taking out your time to talk with us about the NBA. Your way onto the show, as always, on the text line, 641-1010. Also have the pop-off line, 904-207-7071. If you cannot call in today, but you want to leave a message, and maybe we even play it next week for you here on the program. So if you can't make it on the text line, 641-1010, or the MyBookie Digital Studios, wherever you are listening to us, whether that be Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, 207-7071 is your chance also to get on the program. Our question of the day, in honor of the Super Bowl, you're looking at the Kansas City Chiefs as a potential dynasty, maybe one of the greatest dynasties in the NFL in terms of their history, a chance for a three-peat. I don't want to ask who's the greatest dynasty in NBA history. However, who could have been in the conversation as a great NBA dynasty in NBA history had the team stayed together? As always, we think about the Shaq and Penny Orlando Magic team. I also think about maybe the Sacramento Kings with C. Webb, Vlade Divac, Mike Bibby. Had they handled the Lakers in that 7-game series in 2002, could that one championship run sprung off another championship, maybe a third? Who knows? But let me know. 641-1010. So kind of want to start off with this. I saw this maybe a couple of days ago, and it really got me to thinking. And we also have this on Twitter if you want to answer this question on 1010XL, because we sit in barber chairs, bar stools, church pews, drive around Jacksonville with our friends. And when we're talking sports, we always have fun conversations. And in this respect, we're talking about the NBA, but the conversation of who would you rather have, right? Career-wise, would you rather have the career of Jordan or Magic, Bird or Kobe, Shaq or Wilt Chamberlain? And even to a lesser degree, if you're not talking about the GOATs of the game, we'll throw in names such as Jason Kidd or Steve Nash. Who would you rather have legacy-wise? Who had the better career? But Gilbert Arenas and Gil's Arena, they had an interesting conversation when it comes to legacies in terms of what's more important. Is it winning something like the league MVP, or is it winning an NBA championship? Here is Gil's Arena, which includes Kenyon Martin, Rashad McCants, Nick Young, and Brandon Jennings, in terms of what means more to a legacy in the NBA.
League MVP.
Right, if I'm
League
going to the
MVP is you. Championship is your team.
Hey, Allen Iverson. I'm going home with the Finals MVP.
Allen Iverson has a league.
So I'm taking home two.
Not necessarily.
Yes, necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Like, Kobe got.
You don't have to be
Kobe got one MVP. It's 5 championships. I mean, always talk about championships.
And 2 Finals.
We say he should have more. Say it again. And we
Kobe
say he
got
should
5
have
championships.
Say it loud for the
He got 5 championships.
Say he should have
And
more.
all we talk about is championships.
And nobody talk about the MVP.
He should have more. Before he won the championship. Before he won the championship. Oh, he didn't even go.
I want
the championship
and Finals MVP.
Because Finals MVP.
Yeah.
I said that's the same thing Tatum thought. That's the same thing Curry thought. That's the same thing Curry thought, right? That because he's the best player, he was going to win Finals MVP. He lost it to someone. Tatum lost his. Right now, who's the top 5 shooting guards in the NBA? History.
Charles Barkley.
There's 2 people who haven't won no championship, and they in front of Klay Thompson for damn sure. Klay got 4 of them as the second option. Allen Iverson's in front of him, and James Harden's in front of him. MVPs it first.
Yes.
Before Tebow won.
So I'll try to keep this in terms of the GOAT debate, because when you get into guys like Klay Thompson and you get into individuals such as James Harden and where he belongs in the pantheon, or Allen Iverson where he belongs in the pantheon, I really feel you're talking about which play style would you rather have. And when you look at a guy like Klay Thompson, I don't think he could have ever been the best player on a championship team. So let's just keep this on the straight and narrow when it comes to the GOATs of the game and what maybe they would have felt is more important to them. I remember Darius Miles interviewing Kobe Bryant, and Darius said how he stacks players in terms of tier list. One of his asterisks on his rubric is how long did you dominate a decade? And in terms of dominating a decade, I would have to believe that involves winning. Now, you can include MVPs in that, league MVPs, but I think the same problem that the NFL is having, at least most recently, with who should have won the MVP, whether that have been Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, we've always had issues in the NBA as to who should win MVP. Heck, Tracy McGrady feels that he should have won MVP in 2003 over Tim Duncan, because he says if you would have taken me off of that Orlando Magic team in 2003, they wouldn't have made the playoffs. Kobe Bryant, people make the argument for him in 2006. Listen, he took a Los Angeles Lakers team that without him, nobody would have been talking about. He took them to the NBA playoffs, and heck, I believe had a 3-1 series lead against the Phoenix Suns, but they gave it to Steve Nash that year. So we never really know the criteria. But when you look at a guy like Kobe Bryant, it seems to me, even in 2008, when they make the NBA Finals, he says this season was about winning. It wasn't about winning the MVP award. Because for him, in his mind, he was trying to chase Michael Jordan, who we argue could be the greatest player of all time. 6 times in the NBA Finals, no losses in the NBA Finals. Shaquille O'Neal is still mad over the fact that Steve Nash has 2 regular season MVPs over him. However, when you look at Shaquille O'Neal, you can argue that he's a top 10 player of all time in NBA history. But Shaq says, listen, I don't forget that Steve Nash has 2 league MVPs that maybe I should have won.
Coach Reggie, was he true MVP or was he a sympathy MVP?
No, he was a true MVP.
Over me? Twice? Oh, get out of here.
Hey,
Get out of here.
is that
Smoking, take it back. Water from color ain't no good. Over me. Stop it. Sympathy MVP.
Oh, we sympathetic.
Why? Because I was too big, too strong, but I can't get it every year.
Sounds like
That's why.
Sounds like the ramblings of a...
But he won it back to back.
Karl Malone, Charles Barkley, Derrick Rose, Steve Nash, Allen Iverson, throwing Harden, and throwing Westbrook as well. They're looked at as some of the greatest players of our generation. All have regular season MVPs. Do we speak on the fact that they have a regular season MVP, or is the conversation more that they never won a championship for whatever reason? And I know there's a myriad of them. But it always seems to me that we look at the greats of the game, and there was something undeniable about being a champion. You can argue all you want that I should have won MVP when I didn't, or I didn't deserve MVP this year. Should have been somebody else. You can't say anything about me winning a championship. It seemed like that's the only thing that's ever been important to the top tier guys, right? I bring up Kobe again. Everybody understands I'm a Kobe guy, but he did an interview with Alex Rodriguez. And he says, listen, when it was me having to lead a team to an NBA Finals. Shaq goes away. Now it's my team. I'm implementing my DNA onto the team. It's not like they were going to look at Pau Gasol or Lamar Odom at the end of their careers and say, you didn't win an NBA championship. No, they're going to be looking at the guy who has been called, quote, the heir apparent to Michael Jordan and say, well, you didn't win. And I also believe that the stigma for Kobe was also the fact that, listen, many thought that he only won his championships with Shaquille O'Neal. As a behemoth as he was, that's the only reason why Kobe won his rings. You take Shaq off that team, Kobe's a great player, but probably doesn't win any championships. So Kobe being able to do that and show that he could win back-to-back NBA titles and go on a 3-year run there with the Los Angeles Lakers team led by him, I also believe that it helped him rise to where he wanted to rise. But not talking about MVP awards for Kobe Bryant. Michael Jordan. He did an interview with Oprah, and I'm not talking about the Oprah interview that he did with Charles Barkley. He did a separate interview with Oprah where he talks about winning was everything. Winning was the only thing. Charles Barkley's probably looked at as one of the top 50 greatest players of all time, but me and him sit down, he never won one. And a lot of that also speaks to the greatness of a Michael Jordan. How many NBA players have we heard in NBA history say, I'd probably have an NBA championship if it wasn't for that guy in Chicago? Many also say, I'd probably would have had more all-star appearances if it wasn't for him, if I wasn't a shooting guard. Barkley won an MVP in the Jordan era. Karl Malone won a couple of MVPs in the Jordan era. And for most of us who love that Last Dance documentary, Jordan says, aside from the fact that he took it personally, you can have the MVP. Now I'm going to be right at your mug. And I'm going to take this NBA title away from you. But I got to include us. We as the NBA fans, we created that standard for them. If you want to be viewed as great, you have to win. And you have to win at the highest level. You can be the MVP in the league. You can be looked at as top 5 in your era at the time in which you were playing. But if you only won an MVP when your career is said and done, were you really that great? Why don't you have a championship to your credit? That's what we look at as fans. We also set that standard. Remember this? LeBron had a couple of MVPs to his credit his first go-around in Cleveland. Those comparisons to Mike started rearing their head. Jordan stands. He hasn't won an NBA championship yet. And we're talking about MVPs. He had already had a couple. So LeBron goes to Miami. And let me also say this as an aside. Not all rings are created equal. I think we have made that argument for some. LeBron James maybe being one of them, saying that he allegedly stacks the deck to give him the best chance of winning an NBA championship every year. But in his eyes, he felt the stigma of not winning a championship was gone once I went to Miami and I won a championship. The stigma further left when I went to Cleveland and gave Cleveland their first NBA championship. Then I go to LA, whether you want to call it a bubble championship or not. But I won a championship. I'm a 4-time NBA champion. I don't think he ever gets 6. I think we're well past that. But you couldn't say the guy wasn't an NBA champion anymore. How you like to define how he got his championships, left up to conjecture. And as you know, I'm open to every conversation. Kevin Durant, he had a league MVP, but nobody ever gave him the credit of being the best player in the league. Some did, But the national pundits and the people to maybe in his mind mattered didn't think that he was a guy that was best player in the league material because he hadn't won a championship yet. Wasn't there a report that was out there that said Kevin Durant believed if he won an NBA championship against LeBron James, that would be his ticket to being looked at as the greatest player in the league at that time? Unfortunately, people said no because, of course, he stacked the deck and you had a top 3 player in the league go to a team that had just won the NBA championship a year prior and 73 wins the year that they lose the NBA title to LeBron James. Gilbert Arenas, he brought up Steph Curry and saying that, and I don't know where he heard this, but he's in much more NBA circles than I am, that Curry wasn't going to be looked at as greater if he had won finals and finals MVP, or that Steph Curry thought that he would be looked at higher in the GOAT tiers. If he won the finals and finals MVP, he's only got 1 to his credit. I do believe that Steph Curry did open up a conversation. In the LeBron James era, and let's just say from 2010 to now, in the LeBron James era, so we're going 15 years, Steph Curry won 4 NBA titles. We don't talk about the MVPs. And Steph Curry is the first unanimous MVP, but that's not the first thing in which I go to anytime I talk about Steph. In the era in which LeBron James, this is supposed to be his era where he dominates. Where, hell, LeBron James may win 6, 7. Steph Curry got 4. And won 3 titles against LeBron James. And won his 4th title when there were many that were out there that said the championship window is closed for the Golden State Warriors. I understand that we may talk about James Harden and AI and say that they're better players than Klay Thompson, but you want to understand what Gilbert Arenas did not say? He didn't say that AI nor James Harden are above Dwayne Wade, who now is probably argued as the 3rd best shooting guard in NBA history till said otherwise. Because Dwayne Wade, no regular season MVPs to his credit. 3 NBA titles. And a finals MVP. A great thing that they did put out there, however, is, hey, listen, Derrick Rose and every single MVP before him that's won in the regular season, all are in the Hall of Fame. And they should be in the Hall of Fame. I think you can make an argument for that. Looked at as the best player in the NBA that year. But don't you feel it would be different if Allen Iverson had a championship? If James Harden would have beat the Golden State Warriors and won an NBA championship with the Rockets? Wouldn't it be different? Don't we hold winning as NBA fans, as sports fans, with whatever sport you like, whether that be in the NFL, whether that be in Major League Baseball or the National Basketball Association, isn't winning the only thing that matters? We don't really talk about individual accolades as the first nugget of information we're putting out there. The first thing we're always going to say is how many NBA championships did you win? Legacies are normally all encompassing. And to the GOATs, they understood that winning in the highest level meant more than regular season MVPs. So if it were me, give me an NBA championship all day long. But those are my thoughts, and I would love to hear your 641-1010 on the text line, or you can call in 641-1010. Also, answer the question for us on Twitter. Just type in 1010XL. It'll be right there for you. But let's talk about the trade deadline. We're far past this now. We're now going into the buyout market. There are going to be a few guys that are probably going to make their way to a couple of championship contenders if they need their services. The Orlando Magic decide to stand pat at the deadline. Good thing, bad thing. Let's talk that over with Dan Favale of Bleacher Report right here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
There are 4 seasons: winter, spring, summer, and Jags football.
To the 5, into the end zone, touchdown!
Jaguar football lives here. 1010XL, home of the Jaguars.
Yo, each of the T here from my bookie, and it's finally here. A game so big, we're not even supposed to say the name. Where the Kansas City Chiefs take on the Philadelphia Eagles at the Superdome. This isn't just the biggest game of the year, it's the ultimate betting event. If you're not on my bookie, you're missing out on all the action. Big game betting with my bookie goes beyond picking the winner. We've got all the wild props you can think of for this epic showdown. Will it be heads or tails? What color will the Gatorade be for the drenching of the winning coach? Even the length of the national anthem and the spectacle of the halftime show are up for grabs. My bookie loves giving you options to bet on everything. What really makes my bookie stand out? We make it easy to win and even easier to get paid. Whether you deposit in crypto or credit, bonuses await. And our new loyalty program gives you cash back just for playing. Bet on the big game boost parlays, live betting, and jackpots that can turn small bets into big wins. Fast signups, lightning fast payouts. Make sure you sign up using my promo code 1010XL to get that deposit. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with my bookie. Come on, somebody.
Guys, Valentine's Day is coming. Don't run out of time. Jacksonville Flower Market on Beach and Southside has fresh, beautiful flowers she'll love. Mention radio to get 10% off. They'll even customize the bouquet so it's unique to her. Jacksonville Flower Market on Beach and Southside. Listen up, Googans. Hicken here, still talking skin. This time I want to give you some great advice for Valentine's Day. Look, don't buy anything that either dies or adds pounds. Go see the girls at Beach's Dermatology and get a gift card or even a specific skin treatment, one that will enhance her beauty, maybe even help her look like she did when y'all first met. It's possible. Skin treatment is very important, and a gift from Beach's Dermatology makes a perfect gift this Valentine's Day. For locations, go to beachesdermatology.com.
If you'd like to try something different this year for Valentine's Day, you'll find great gift ideas from
Beard's Diamonds and Jacksonville Flower Market.
Find everything you need to know at 1010XL.com. Happy Valentine's Day from 1010XL. 1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville, it's all hoops. Open Gym on 1010XL.
The NBA trade deadline has come and gone. We are now looking forward to the buyout portion of the NBA season, also the All-Star game coming next week. Let's try to break all of this down, and for that, we bring in Dan Favale, NBA writer for Bleacher Report, always so gracious enough to give us a couple of minutes of his time to break things down in the game of round ball. Dan, thanks so much for joining us. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you doing?
Good, and thank you, as always, for coming on the program. But describe to me your thoughts on this past NBA trade deadline.
It could be summed up in 3 words, and that's shocked and confused. I definitely didn't even expect the level of activity in general, just given all the aprons and the new limitations in the CBA, so that was a surprise. But right. I've been doing this for like 15 years, and the Luka Doncic trade is by far the most shocking thing for me to ever come out of nowhere, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it a week later.
With Luka Doncic and the trade to the Los Angeles Lakers, have you been able to kind of give a justifiable reason for the Dallas Mavericks as to why, as to the how we got here? I mean, I'm a Los Angeles Lakers fan, but I've waken up and I've gone to sleep and I'm saying, listen, I'm bummed that we gave up Anthony Davis, but how in the world did we get Luka Doncic? Nobody is trading a guy that's probably looked at as a top 3 player in the NBA when healthy, and his competitive juices are just flowing. So have you been able to talk to anybody, or are you yourself, being an NBA writer, just able to give a justifiable reason for Dallas?
I don't think any of the reasons that have been given on or off the record are really justifiable. I think it comes down to maybe two things you can make the argument for. Is one, there was stuff off the court behind the scenes where it just became so toxic culturally if he wasn't really trying to keep himself in shape or following their maintenance program that they got tired of it and they viewed it as unworkable. That's insufficient, but it's at least a potential logic. And the other thing would be, do they know something else about the calf injury or just the state of his body in general? And do they view this? I know their general manager, Nico Harrison, has said a lot about the short and long term, but I do see a scenario where this year specifically, they think that they have a better chance to win the title with Anthony Davis because of his defense, and maybe they think he'll be more available the rest of the way, even though he got injured in his first game for them. So you could, if you really wanted to stretch it, you could make the case that they might be a more viable playoff team this year, just given Luka's health status, but even that feels pretty flimsy.
Continuing our conversation with Dan Favale, NBA writer for Bleacher Report. You can follow him on Twitter at Dan Favale. Last thing about the Lakers with you. News comes down that Mark Williams is not going to be an LA Laker. Los Angeles didn't like what they saw in the physicals, but does that change your opinion at all in terms of how LA stacks up in the West, even with them still acquiring Luka Doncic?
It does a little bit, just because Mark Williams is not this super incredible vertical threat, but he is a lob threat, and Luka Doncic loves those. But I think they needed interior defense and just defense more than anything. And I think the biggest misconception I saw coming out of the trade is that Mark Williams is super talented. He is not a good defensive player right now. And so I actually think, I do believe that if Mark Williams can stay healthy, which we've seen time and again that he can, and now the physical stuff, he has a ton of potential. But I actually think the Lakers got a little bit lucky here with that, because I thought it was an overpay to play your last trade chips on someone who, yes, fits alongside Luka Doncic, but does not give your defense any sort of bump.
Now, if we can transition towards the NBA as a whole, for me, the Orlando Magic were a team that surprised me by not making any moves, although I understand that Jeff Weltman said he didn't want to make any sort of, quote, panic moves at the deadline. Your team isn't shooting at least league average from downtown, so I don't know why you decided not to bring in a shooter. I was also surprised by the New York Knicks really not making a move. I thought maybe they could bring in or have use for a guy that's going to be a seventh man or an eighth man to really give you depth on that bench. But are there any teams to you that you were surprised by that didn't make any sort of moves by the deadline?
Yeah, there were two that stood out, and one of them was the Orlando Magic. I know that Weltman had mentioned not wanting to make panic moves, but you alluded to it. Putting shooting on the floor isn't viewed as a panic move. This is now, we're more than a decade into the Magic not having an above-average offense, not being a good shooting team, and I understand they have some time because Paolo and Franz are young, and maybe they've dealt with a ton of injuries, so they didn't want to shake up the roster this year, but this team is built to win now and later, and they just seem to be de-emphasizing now. So I was surprised and a little disappointed for their fans. And then the other team that really probably floored me that they didn't do anything was the Portland Trail Blazers. I know they've been rolling, but they've been rolling a lot because of Shaedon Sharpe and Scoot Henderson and Donovan Clingan, and you've been getting good contributions from a guy like Denny Avdia and even Anthony Simons. I really thought they might find a taker for Jeremy Grant, or at least move one of their bigs, and more likely Robert Williams, or even at least Duop Reed. But for them to really stand pat, given the point where they're at, I think it, one, was surprising, but two, when we look at kind of what Kyle Kuzma went for, what DeAndre Hunter went for, it kind of speaks to how there might have been just absolutely no market for Jeremy Grant and his contract at the moment.
Absolutely. Now, when I look at other teams as well that did make moves, you talk about the DeAndre Hunter trade. You also talk about the Kyle Kuzma trade, them going to the Milwaukee Bucks and the Cleveland Cavaliers, respectively. Was there a team for you that made a sneaky good move going into the second half of the year?
Yeah, I'll give you two. So you mentioned Cleveland. Getting DeAndre Hunter, he's not like the perfect 3-and-D player, but he's borderline perfect for that team because he's not the best defender, but when you're going to have Evan Mobley and or Jarrett Allen behind you at all times, he's going to work for them. He can slide up to the 4 more easier than any other wing they had on the roster, will stretch the floor as well. And so they acquired what I believe is probably going to be like their most important fifth player when you're trying to build closing units in the playoffs without giving up a real first-round pick. That's a big deal. And then the other team that was sneaky, I hated what they did with De'Aaron Fox, but the Kings getting Jake LaRavia, he's a very interesting player because he can legitimately defend 1 through 4. And this year he is hitting his threes off the catch. And so if he can continue playing that role in Sacramento, they have needed a player like him defensively to slot alongside or behind Keegan Murray and Keon Ellis for a really long time now. And so that, I think, in hindsight, just as a smaller, under-the-radar name, could be looked at as one of the sneakier moves of the deadline.
Continuing our conversation with Dan Favale, NBA writer for Bleacher Report. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Dan Favale. Got to ask you about a couple of all-star level players that now one calls a new place home, one stands pat, but seems like the Phoenix Suns were willing to give up Kevin Durant for Jimmy Butler. Phoenix has been an interesting team for me just due to the fact that they believe that a big three of Bill, Durant, and Devin Booker was going to work. Right now, they're the 10th team in the Western Conference, but I never would have thought that Kevin Durant would have been a guy on the table. Just want to know from you what you made of that.
I make that they're pretty much hopeless at this point, and it would be fairly shocking if Kevin Durant is still on that team next season, and it wouldn't surprise me if Devin Booker is gone. And I think their cardinal sin through all this, I know a lot of people point to the Bradley Beal trade, but they needed to negotiate harder in the Kevin Durant trade. They gave up so much that it gave them virtually no margin for error, and they have used all of that up and more. And I think the bigger thing, looking at this season, I have no idea why you trade your 2031 pick for those 3 lesser first-round picks if you don't have a move for Jimmy Butler or something else lined up. And sort of dumping Yusuf Nurkic and getting off his money for next year is just, that's not sufficient enough. And so they're a confusing, disappointing, and I would use the word again, and I don't use it lightly or throw it around a ton, but they feel pretty much hopeless.
The Jimmy Butler saga now over in Miami. We saw what Jimmy Butler was able to do last night in Chicago against the Bulls. It may be that he's finding his love for the game again, but this whole Jimmy Butler saga, it's been going on for quite a while. Just give me your definition as to the whole saga and what you think Jimmy Butler can do for this Golden State Warriors team moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's amazing how quickly the joy of basketball returns when you get the extension that you've been looking for.
Right.
So the saga was just, I don't think either the Heat or Jimmy come off looking particularly good, but I think it actually worked out well for both sides. Jimmy gets on a team that clearly wants him, and they paid him. And then the Heat, they got it. Like, Andrew Wiggins is going to be a good fit there. Davion Mitchell, even coming out of the trade, will be a good fit there.
Right.
And they got a first-round pick out of it. With the Warriors specifically, I'm very intrigued to see how he works out long-term, specifically on offense. They've had a real problem with the non-Steph minutes, even dating back to Kevin Durant era and before. Jimmy's going to help there. The question will be, what does it look like when Kuminga's healthy with Draymond and Steph and Jimmy all on the court together? We saw Jimmy set a ton of screens in the Chicago Bulls game in his Warriors debut, so maybe that sort of gives you a lay of the land moving forward. But I'm very intrigued to see. I think he will help the offense, and I think they'll figure it out. But I am intrigued to see how that setup where there's limited shooting around Steph at this point is going to work against some of the better teams, specifically in the Western Conference.
It's NBA buyout market time. I understand that for many, they won't keep up with it as hard as you and I will, being diehard NBA fans. But are there some names that you're going to be on the lookout for that you feel can help championship contending teams in the second half of the year?
This buyout market's interesting because I think that a lot of players want to stay on their contract to retain their bird rights, and so they'll be less likely to broker buyouts. But a name that it's already come out that he's not a buyout candidate, but I just really don't buy it yet, is Malcolm Brogdon in Washington. And I think that's somebody, I thought maybe he'd land with the Clippers, but they already have Ben Simmons off the buyout market. Right. I think he's somebody, if a team isn't inside the apron and views themselves as a contender, he is someone who, when he is healthy, like, he gives you some 3-and-D and just a little bit of driving, ball handling, and that's someone that I think could make a real impact on a really good team right now.
Absolutely. Now, give me a few teams for you that you're going to be keeping your eye out on and during this second half of the year, because now we get into an interesting time where seeding is now going to be super important for a lot of these teams. And then when you look at the teams that are at the top, they're going to want to keep their spots inside the Western or Eastern Conference as they look to make a championship run as we get to the playoffs here before we know it. Are there just a couple of teams that you think are going to be a tad bit sneaky when we go away from the teams that have already been looked at as championship contenders?
I really think we got to start paying way more attention to the Los Angeles Clippers. Kawhi's playing games right now. They have, I think, the second best defense in the league. The Bogdanovich trade, it was a little risky, but when you look at what they sent out and got back, if he's hitting shots, and which he has not been doing, to be clear, in Atlanta, that's going to boost an offense that needs exactly that.
Right.
So now you add Ben Simmons. It'll be interesting if they can surround him with enough spacing, but he kind of fits their defensive motif. That's a team that if Kawhi is healthy, and that's a big if, they are closer to contender status than not. And the fact that they've been as good as they have been despite their offensive struggles, despite Kawhi missing so much time, again, if they can just get him healthy at the right time for the season, they're going to be a threat to beat anybody.
When it comes to the analysis of the game, look no further than Dan Favale. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Dan Favale. That's going to be Favale. Words are hard, Dan. I'm sorry. NBA writer for Bleacher Report. Make sure to follow him and get the latest on all things NBA. Dan, thank you so much for doing this, and hopefully we can do this again once the playoffs get up and running.
Most definitely. Thank you for having me as always. Have a good rest of your weekend.
There he goes, Dan Favale. Favale. It'll get easier at some point for me when it comes to spelling. That's why they never put me in any spelling bees growing up. Winners and losers of the NBA trade deadline. Can you stand pat and still be confident that your team is going to be amongst the contenders in the NBA? Can a trade not happen and be that of rescinded and you not be worried at all because you're going to be amongst the NBA's elite once we get to April and May? I'll give you my winners and losers next, right here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
She's very comfortable talking sports and hanging out with the boys.
Mia O'Brien here, still providing the best multimedia sports coverage in Northeast Florida on 1010XL radio, video, and social channels.
All things Mia are driven by Arlington Toyota.
3D Digital has you covered for any of your business's digital marketing needs. From producing award-winning videos to getting those digital ads to follow your customers around the internet, our team has your back. Visit 3ddigital.com or give us a call at 904-712-4004 to schedule a free consultation today. 904-712-4004.
Home is where your story begins. And at Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing, we're here to make it the healthiest, most comfortable place it could be. Whether it's fresh, clean air, dependable plumbing, or reliable power, we take care of it all. From routine maintenance to state-of-the-art solutions, Donovan keeps your home running smoothly. Because at Donovan, we believe your home isn't just where you live, it's where your health meets comfort. Call Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing at 904-270-COOL or visit us online. Let's make your home healthier, safer, and better together.
Hi, I'm Mac with Baker Glass. If you've got fogged up windows, let me help. We'll replace them with clear, insulated units that brighten up your home. People say we're fast, friendly, and reliable. Just check out our Google reviews. Call me today. Baker Glass. No one treats you better.
From the preseason to the playoffs and every day in between.
Each man individually preparing himself to be the best he could possibly be. Better than he's ever been. Because that's what it's going to take.
At 1010XL, the season never ends.
Is your dog Team Rough or Team Fluff? It's officially Puppy Bowl season at Dogtopia Jacksonville Beach Boulevard. They're getting MVPs, most valuable pups, ready for the big game. Your dog deserves a tail-wagging day of fun, and Dogtopia's indoor playrooms are the perfect training ground for their game day moment. Get your dog in on all the action by visiting Dogtopia Jacksonville Beach Boulevard and St. John's Bluff. New to the pack? Enjoy a free day of daycare. Mention Puppy Bowl when booking to claim the offer.
Yo, E.T. here, and don't let Valentine's Day sneak up on you. Plan the perfect romantic getaway in Clay County. Stay at one of Clay's beautiful Airbnbs or in luxury at Club Continental, a boutique riverfront retreat, and treat your special someone to an unforgettable dinner at the Hilltop Restaurant. Trust me on this one. Clay County is the perfect spot for romance. Start planning today at exploreclay.com and tag those romantic moments with #ExploreClay.
Lauren Brooks here for Terminix. When pests invade your home or business, you don't just need them out, you need them out fast. and you need to keep them out. At Terminix, they'll show up for you and eliminate pests quicker, just like they did at my house, because they care about what matters most to you. When pests show up, so does Terminix. Don't live with a pest problem, Terminix it. Visit Terminix.com today to schedule a free inspection online. That's TERMINIX.com. That's right, Terminix it.
Visit Monahan Jewelers now through Valentine's Day for savings on all GIA certified diamonds and discounts store-wide up to 40% off and interest-free financing on all purchases. Certified diamonds, gemstones, engagement rings, diamond studs, designer brands. Monahan's has it all. We're not a chain store. We're your local family jeweler since 1977 with a world-class inventory of fine jewelry and diamonds and gemstones available in any size. Support your local family jeweler now through Valentine's with huge savings in our inventory. Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach.
Denny Thompson here. This is the last week to enter for a chance to win a $2,500 prize over at the new Tyson Sound and Security showroom. I'm talking a 75-inch loaded Samsung TV with 3D surround sound, a soundbar with wireless subwoofer, and installation is included. Stop by the new showroom, check out the setup, and drop your name in the box to enter for your chance to win. Giveaway ends Sunday, so go now to Tyson Sound and Security, 3555 U.S. Highway 17 in Fleming Island.
Hey, folks, Hicken here for Zero Res. And right now, the hottest price of the year. Listen, we all know we have a pretty notable football game in February just around the corner. The big game, that's what they make us call it. So if you are having people over for the big game, you're going to want to get your carpets clean. Maybe before the game, maybe after the game. Schedule now, and you'll get 3 rooms for $147. And the 4th room is free. 4th room on me. Hottest price of the year. Zero Res, man. It's the right way to clean.
CEROREC. Zero Res.
AA Automotive helps keep your vehicle in dependable and safe condition. Call Sam, Harry, or Joe, and they'll check your brakes, tires, fluids, electric, and motor, so your ride runs smooth on the road. That's AA Automotive on Richard Street.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville, it's all hoops. Open Gym on 1010XL.
The 973 says, RJ, I know you have a big love for the Boston Celtics. Bird, Parrish, McHale. Dynasty. But seriously, a true dynasty was Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman. The Bulls with Michael were the greatest of all time. Please don't revoke my Celtics card. Have a great day. I will have a great day. Because you're blocked. I'm a Lakers fan. You being a Celtics fan, it's a big no-no. At least on this show. Open Gym, 1010XL and 92.5 FM. We don't allow Celtics fans. I'm lying. We allow all fans. When you talk about the greatest dynasty of all time, however, for our question of the day, we were asking who could have been a great dynasty, but if you want to look at a team that was probably the greatest dynasty in the NBA, we do look in the modern era. We do look at the Jordan Bulls. Could you argue the Bill Russell Celtics? Before you give me the Plumbers argument, I do just believe it's hard to win 11 championships in 13 years. You also have the Shaq and Kobe era. Who now? That's a big who knows how long that dynasty could have went if Kobe and Shaq didn't have their back and forth in their heated battle. And I also wondered, the Houston Rockets, have they stayed together? Do they beat Jordan and the Bulls? Do they become a dynasty themselves? It almost feels that in the 90s, we kind of forget about them. That's how dominant Jordan and Chicago was. We forget about the fact that the Houston Rockets won back-to-back titles in 94 and 95. So give us your greatest dynasty, greatest NBA dynasty ever, and an NBA dynasty that could have been. Me personally, I do believe it's the Orlando Magic with Shaq and Penny. I think they could have ripped at least 3 or 4 off if Shaq had stayed. Penny never gets injured. my opinion. I would love to know yours. However, I am going to give you my opinion on a couple of winners and a couple of losers. Winners in this past NBA trading deadline, the NBA fans. And also, Adam Silver. He wanted parity, and my goodness, did he get it. LeBron James saying that the NBA, that's the sport now. Remember he said that on Christmas? Sports world belongs to us. Well, I won't go that far. I still believe that the NFL is king. However, to have all these trades at the deadline with, I think it was 7 all-stars, franchise-altering moves, if this is the viewership in which you wanted, Adam Silver, you got it. And I do believe if Luka Doncic is to play Monday, I think that viewership is going through the roof. I dang near forgot that the Super Bowl was today. But of course, you're also talking to an NBA fan. But the NBA fans and Adam Silver, the commissioner of the league, big winners. Big time winners. Losers, I hate saying this. The Orlando Magic lost to me on this one. They didn't lose to me last year. This year it feels like they lost. Here's why. Jeff Weltman and Anthony Parker, they've said that they've had the cap space, they've had the assets, they have the capital to where when it's time to make the right move, they'll make it. But for the second consecutive season, the NBA trade deadline has come and gone without a move from the Orlando Magic. Now, we've had Dante Marchitelli on the show. He told us the team was going to do their due diligence. And Jeff Weltman says, hey, we did do our due diligence. You cannot take that away from us. Jeff Weltman also went on the Mike Bianchi show in Orlando, and he says that he fielded calls. However, he just felt that they felt squeezed at the deadline by a couple of teams. Here's Jeff.
You know, the first thing about the trade deadline is when you're struggling as a team entering the deadline, you kind of know you're going to get squeezed. That's just the way it works. And so we kind of went in with our antenna up a little bit. We did try to execute some deals. I want to let our fans know, look, man, we know we need shooting. You know, we haven't shot the ball well this year. We need to do better. But we've played 58 games this year, and our 3 best players have played 6 games together. So while we did engage in some discussions, even with some highly significant players and a whole spectrum of lesser players, we just didn't feel like the right deal shaped up. We felt we were getting squeezed. We felt some of the deals would have been burning long-term assets like first-round picks for kind of short-term solutions where we slap a Band-Aid on the problem and maybe that player isn't with us in a year. And so, you know, we elected to sit tight and hopefully we get Jalen back soon and kind of look to play the way we were playing not too long ago in the good old days of 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Giving up future assets for a, quote, short-term solution, it kind of doesn't make sense to me. Orlando's last in the NBA in terms of three-point accuracy. I'm looking right here, 30.3%. Unfortunately, league average is around 36% this season in the NBA. Now, he brings up the point of your big 3, Suggs, Wagner, and Carroll. And they've only played 6 games together. In those 6 games that they've played on the floor together, they've won 4. And maybe Jeff feels that, hey, we have 3 shot creators that when on the floor, it would make it easier for a guy like KCP. It would make it easier for a guy like Gary Harris. And let's not forget that we were a top 4 seed earlier this year. We were as high as a 3 seed earlier this year, before this lull that we have at the turn of the calendar. But like Dan Fafale said in our last segment, I don't think getting more three-point shooting would have been that of a panic move. I think if you're to say we have our shot creators and we brought in more shooting, I could put us up against anybody, whether play-in team or we make one of the top 6 seeds. But now you didn't. And you're an 8 seed at the time that we're doing this show. And it's going to be a hard pill to swallow that you stand pat yet again. Because what killed you last year against Cleveland, you didn't have consistent three-point shooting. And we've brought up names. And Cam Johnson, I'm surprised that no one gave anything that Brooklyn liked. Cam Johnson, I feel, would have been a wonderful addition to the Orlando Magic. But, as we said last year, I think that he believes they have guys that can be three-point shooters that we have drafted and that we are developing. I still think they believe in Jet Howard. There probably were some teams that were saying, are you willing to give up Anthony Black? Are you willing to give up Tristan Da Silva? And Jeff Weltman, I can see him in that office with Anthony Parker saying, no. I'm not giving those 3 guys up. Because I do believe that he feels that this is a team that can win in the future as well as win now. We saw what they did early on this year. So are you going to use these draft choices that you have in future drafts and you're going to say we're going to focus on trying to get the best shooter available in the draft over the next couple of years? Or is there a guy that you're waiting for in free agency, maybe even the buyout market? I just thought the right move would have been you need to get a shooter. The fact that you didn't, I'm just a little bit concerned because the Magic, pun intended, is starting to disappear. And it's scaring me. Winners? How about the Golden State Warriors? Now, they did get desperate. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Reports say they fielded calls for every superstar, including trying to bring back Kevin Durant. And Jimmy was saying that he wasn't going to sign long-term with the Golden State Warriors. It's funny what happens when people throw money in front of you. So you didn't have to mortgage your future, because if you remember, the Miami Heat were asking for quite a bit. They wanted future assets, future draft capital. I think they also wanted Jonathan Kuminga. If we're just talking from the Warriors standpoint, they wanted Kuminga. And for whatever reason, Golden State was not willing to let that go. All you had to give up really in this deal was Andrew Wiggins. Not bad. Now, this gives you at least an opportunity. I'm not saying you're going to win the NBA Finals. I don't even think they go that far, even with the trade. But this gives Steph Curry the best player he's had on the roster. That's another superstar player since Kevin Durant. But I think the Golden State Warriors here are winners at the end of the day because you didn't have to give up a lot to get Jimmy Butler, who was a disgruntled superstar. Another loser. However, the Phoenix Suns, this has gotten more weird and weird to me. I think Phoenix realizes they messed up. They tried making this big 3 of Durant, Beal, and Booker. You traded Ayton, you bring in Nurkic, and at the time, I understood that, and I still do. It seemed like Ayton didn't want to be there. Ayton wanted to be a guy that was looked at as the centerpiece of a franchise, and that just wasn't happening. And I don't think he wanted to be looked at as just solely a lob threat or a guy that rebounds, blocks shots, and rim runs. Well, guess what? You're still looked at as that guy. But you get to the deadline, and you can't get Beal to waive his no-trade clause. You're thinking Beal to Miami, we get Jimmy Butler, we still get to keep Durant, we still get to keep Booker. Everyone wins. How many minutes we got left, Casey?
We got a few, yeah.
1 minute. 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 1 minute I think you trying to let go of Kevin Durant. Let's say this guy asks out this summer. You don't want me? You're fielding calls. You're taking inquiries. Get me out of Phoenix. Loser. Phoenix Suns. Let's wrap the show up after this commercial break here. 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Learn more about the beautiful game of soccer and its impact on the River City.
What a beautiful thing to behold.
Get an hour of soccer talk on the Sporting Jack Soccer Hour.
That's all I want to know.
Tuesday at 6 p.m. on 1010 a.m.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $200-$300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code TURN to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code TURN for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code TURN for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
I'm here with Danny Van Sickle, director of the Electrical Training Alliance. Danny, tell me about your program.
Hey, Rick, we're a 4-year electrical apprenticeship. Our students start out making over $40,000 a year and right now make over $90,000 a year, including benefits. There is no tuition or student debt. You just have to apply and get accepted.
Did you say no tuition and no student debt?
You heard that right, Rick. Once you're accepted to the program, your only cost for the books and the course fees. About $800 a year.
That sounds like an amazing opportunity. How can I learn more?
Just go to etajax.org and you can apply there.
Apply by May 15th.
Hi, I'm Larry Winters III, representing Moore Myers Children's Fund. We are proud to partner with the players to help children build character through the game of golf. It's 30 days until the Players' Championship.
Your radio highlight reel.
Caught for the touchdown.
1010XL, home of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Taylor Doll here. Get your mammogram on the Buddy Bus Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 2 at the showroom of Renewal by Anderson Beach in San Pablo. Reserve your spot by calling 904-202-2499. 904-202-2499.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville, your courtside on Open Gym on 1010XL.
Persham Sharania, Giannis Antetokounmpo will be sidelined through the next week for the Bucks with a mid-calf strain. He's going to miss the NBA All-Star game next Sunday.
Not cool.
I forget that the All-Star game is next Sunday. We'll break it all down. NBA All-Star weekend next week here on 1010XL 92.5 FM. So be on the lookout for that. But that's going to do it for us here on Open Gym. For Casey Dobson, I'm RJ Saunders. We'll talk to you next week. Enjoy the Super Bowl, and next week, enjoy the All-Star game.